It's a way better game jam, okay? I don't know what to call it, but it is Game Jam 2.0.
Once the game's released, this is the model I'm doing.
Yeah, that's it. Oh no, what have I done? I mean, I would rather much have 30% of $100,000 than 70% of $100. Hey there, I'm Connor, and I've sold $100 in gross sales on Steam. I'm here with my co-host, Cory, who has sold over $1 million in sales on Steam. And this is a podcast about game development, where we figure out what it takes to be a successful indie dev. How are things going this week, Cory?
We're in crunch mode. 10 out of 10 crunch mode, maximum crunch mode. The 3 games. Good news, though. It looks like the miracle will happen. All 3 will ship.
Yay! They'll ship. Okay. All in one piece, or is some are going to be like rough getting over the finish line, you think?
I won't be in one piece.
Yeah. Oh, man. You're sending them off and staying back. You're like, I'm good. Just go. Go and do what you need to.
Yep. I mean, I guess this week we could talk about that. Let's talk about shipping a game this week.
Shipping a game. All right. I've done this once. You are doing this 3 times in the span of 1 week. So what do you think? What do you got for our viewers?
Don't do what I'm doing, for starters. Don't ship 3 games. I think setting unmovable dates is a mistake.
Really?
Yes. Having a deadline, yes, is great. But setting an unmovable date where you're like bound to other things happening is way too hard and such advanced strategy for most people that I would just avoid that. Like, if you have a game tied to like some sort of like external factor, I don't know, it's a chess related game and you're going to do it for the World Chess Championship, this is incredibly hard.
Yeah.
These unmovable dates.
But it could be something where like if you had enough, like if you finished way ahead, you would have to like know it like ahead of time and plan for that. So really your deadline is not the unmovable date. It's like a month or 2 before that, which just kind of accelerates the timeline. But again, if it's like that comes along or anything happens, you do run into the issue of, okay, well now we have to start cutting scope or sacrificing other places in order to hit the timeline, right?
I think you think that, but I think the reality is we always think it will take us that point.
Yeah.
Mind Dwarfs. We thought we had play time, no problem. It'll be done way before.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
Well, I'm wrapping up. I just wrapped up like a couple days ago. So we always think we'll have all this extra time. We think we'll be a month ahead of schedule, and then reality clocks you.
Yeah. So then, I guess going game by game, like starting with Mining and Dwarves, can you, like, what did it take to get that game to the point where it was shipped? Like, how were you measuring what you would consider would be, yep, this one is good to go? Like, you say that, but what does that actually mean?
For that game, it's the 3 to 4 hours of active content in the game.
Okay.
And then there's an idle aspect to it, and that time is just like additional for whoever wants to keep leaving it run and play and still unlock some stuff. But the core game is 3 to 4 hours of active gameplay. Mm-hmm. So when I kind of hit that timeline and made sure that everything felt good on terms of like Andy and I and Sock playing the game, and just like nothing felt too tedious. It didn't feel like it was just arbitrarily grinding out for the 4 hours. Once I hit that, then I considered the game, at least at the first iteration, of like done. Yeah. Like, I'm sure there's minor things we're going to come back with and be like, oh, this spot's a little bit too slow. Could we do this? Oh, could we swap these upgrades?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and some of it, I remember for Game About Feeding a Black Hole, you and Aramis had other game modes that were planned, which I think you have, I don't know if it was on our podcast or somewhere else that you've spoken about that before too, about that strategy, but it sounds like there's expectations that you would still go in, make changes based on feedback, that there's still some kind of support that's coming in. This one, it sounds like you're not doing like extra game modes and those kinds of things yet, or at least maybe you haven't announced it or anything. Is that, again, for Mining Dwarves, that's the case?
I'd say it was a mistake.
Really?
Andy and I would both say that for Black
never
Hole.
Again?
About releasing, if you're going to have the additional content, you don't announce it.
That makes sense.
And you give it as like after the release comes out, you're like, oh, look, here's more stuff. Yay, everyone's happy.
Yeah.
We made the mistake of putting a date even to it. And people are like, not everyone, a very small minority was just hounding us. Like, oh, look, they're they're releasing this, but they're not doing this, or they're
Yeah.
working on these things, but not releasing the game mode. And some of the honest feedback to those people were like, this game mode we thought would be fun. And then once I implemented it, it was just terrible. And like, I don't want to ship a terrible mode and then everyone's going to complain, have a bad experience. So we just scrapped some of it.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because that's almost like that same movable date, right? It's even though it's not like Steam or some like event that's happening, it's when you're supporting this and you want to deliver by the players, they have those expectations because you have announced it. And so it almost creates it. And it's even harder because they're the ones who you want to have come back or support your studio. So I could understand from the player perspective where it feels like that, and from the developer perspective where you don't want to be in that situation if you can't deliver upon it. And in some ways it leads to you're optimizing for that date versus actually going through and figuring out, oh, is this game mode good? That same level of care that you did for the rest of the game. Where like the roguelite mode, I think that one you ended up delaying, right? And then delivered it way later, but then you took the time to play it, give it that tuning balance. And so
the roguelite mode was actually never planned. It was never even announced.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
there were some that we announced and we scrapped. And then we just came out eventually and said, look, we're not doing any more.
Yeah.
And then the roguelite was experiment to see if the game would do well itself, being revamped as, Game of Feeding Black Hole roguelike edition. And that's why we shipped it and we gave it. And it actually got a bunch of good feedback.
Nice.
And no one complained about, like, why wasn't this shipped with the original game? Everyone was like, hey, more content.
Yeah.
With the other game modes, especially because they were going to come after the release, a couple voices again were like, this should be then an early access game.
Yeah.
And like, we considered the game a full release with or without the game modes.
Yes.
Like when we clicked the submit, we considered that a completed game. Everything else was extra. And we just want to communicate that, like, look, we plan to keep supporting and adding more.
Yeah.
It's not like we're going to release and we're just totally done. But the easier thing is just release and then communicate in a community hub post that you're looking at adding more things. Don't say what it is because people will hold you to it, and definitely don't put a date.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because I'm also thinking about just building a game in general, right? It's like, do you build in public? Like, how much do you share? When do you share the dates? All of it is really tricky to navigate. And especially as it relates back to shipping anything, whether it's the V1.0 early access or a free update, it's like, so if you're a developer and you're trying to get into this professional mindset of, I am going to support this game as a product, it's very different than just, oh, I'm going to post something on social media and share this as like, oh, okay, cool. Look, friends, here's what I'm doing. Because there are those expectations that someone is paying money for this product and they want that level of professionalism. However, we are more scrappy because we're indie. And so these are all the things that it's like, you kind of stumble upon, right? Like, you only learn this by going through that experience. And so for me, for like Puzzle Milk Tea, I didn't run into this because I didn't have many customers and no one was knocking down my doors. So it was almost a blessing. But also it made it harder because I didn't get, I guess, like, punished in a way for not having a very clear strategy about when I would ship. In my mind, I just came up with something arbitrary of like, I'm going to make 50 levels. I don't know how long it's going to take people to go through. I have these modes and this is just kind of vibes what I'm going to ship with. It made it easier for me, but at the same time, if I was in your situation, I probably would be making those same mistakes because I didn't get that experience of hearing how people react and what the player experience actually is. So it's interesting to see how it all comes together, and you just kind of have to go through it really to learn those lessons.
The funniest thing, Connor, is corporate Cory, working in the corporate environment, knows these mistakes.
Yeah.
Rule number one when you're working in like giant corporations, you never communicate a date internally until it's basically done.
Yep.
Because everyone's going to hold you to that date and have expectations. The moment you say anything out of your mouth related to a date or what it's going to be.
But it makes sense because it's like, we're making games. It feels like it should be more casual, but I would probably feel the same sentiment of corporate Connor is like, yeah, I would never do that ever. Like, make it guaranteed, make sure you can deliver upon it, because that like the trust weighs so much more, whether it's an internal stakeholder or external stakeholder.
Yeah, it's what it was saying, under promise, over deliver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People are never mad that something, well, depending on the context. Usually players won't be mad if they get access to a game early or get access to content that they weren't expecting. If someone's planning on it, like they're like, oh, I made time for this, like a reviewer, right? They might be mad because they're like, oh, I wasn't prepared to record this and now I can't hit the embargo date or whatever because you've accelerated the timeline. So it's like know the difference between the two, but yeah, generally, yeah, under promise, over deliver.
So the games you're working on,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
the game you're working on,
yeah.
and you're going to release, what are concerns you have in releasing that game?
Uh, yeah, it's hard because we're not aiming for Steam right now. We're looking at it more from, and we kind of talked about this. When you ship something, it doesn't necessarily always have to be like a V1, you're doing all your marketing and stuff. We're looking at shipping a prototype, which is nice because we have a lot more room to explore because this is the first time we're going to get something in front of players. And the way we've approached it is we have a bunch of assumptions and hypotheses that we are testing about what this game could be, what players want, how we want them to engage. And so we're at the point of we're using our success metrics, which I think you would kind of agree upon. It's like they get the 10 minutes of gameplay that people play through that you can see and really test it. We want to reach that point first. And so our criteria is we would work on it for as long as it takes for us to get to that point. But then we also overlay that with a time box because if we can't get to it within, a month, then we want to cut that game and move on to the next one and redo the process because we are under the assumption that we have picked a game that has too large of scope to be able to test that it wouldn't make sense for our current skill set to finish. And so we're kind of overlaying the two concepts of make a small game and make something that hooks people at the same time, using the constraints of both time boxing within a month and setting these criteria of what kind of data we expect to see on the other side of it. So if we can't hit either of them, then we failed. And that's how we decide what to quit. So we won't announce it. We won't do anything on Steam. But then the part that we don't know what happens next is then how do we go from that prototype into like a full production cycle because we haven't gotten that. And I think that's okay because the more that we get better at validating these games in the prototyping phase, I think we'll get more opportunities to actually try to ship those games. And like you're going through, we're only going to get that experience by actually doing it. But we also don't want to waste our time on an idea that's just broken to begin with and take 5 years to do it because that's going to be even worse to try to go like just force something through the whole pipeline just to do it. Especially now that Pi and myself, Pi is the developer I'm working with, we've released products, we've gone through the whole cycle. I feel like we checked that checkbox that was important to go through. Now we can learn and be more specific about the lessons that we're learning along the way. But that's at least been our experience. I don't know. Does that kind of line up with what you see having done a lot of these prototypes, work with the different developers as well? Like you're kind of looking at it from a similar perspective? No?
So all I heard was you're scared of spending time on something that's not going to work.
Absolutely. Time is a resource. Time is a resource.
But that's good that you're trying to mitigate against that.
Yes. And I think the way I phrased it is I call it a experiment based, but it is risk mitigation. We have all the risks, design, marketing, and production, and we want to mitigate those risks because it's a way for us to say these are all the reasons we should stop doing the game. And if we don't have any reasons to stop doing it, then we say, okay, then we should do the game. It's a little bit like reverse psychology, but we think that'll lead to higher commitment from us. So we know we know what we're committing to when we reach that point.
So on releasing games, I've been thinking of this concept of playing around with getting games to this demo prototype stage.
Yeah.
And then running ads against them.
Yes. 1,000%. Tell me more.
I don't know how much amount and what. And I've seen some publishers do this actually quite successfully.
Yeah.
I'm actually working pretty closely with one of these publishers because of the game that I'm involved with someone else on. And this is even before the Aramis and Thorny thing.
Okay.
But they are very good at being able to sign somebody and then A/B test out that game. So they'll do like a playthrough of the game.
Yeah.
And then they will assess whether or not it's got legs internally. And if they think so, they'll sign the game dev. And immediately what they will do is quickly go through like a store page revamp of just description tags, short descriptions, and long description. And then they will run like Twitter related ads against the game.
Yep.
Let's say $500 USD.
Yep.
I don't know, but like let's just say.
Yeah.
And then from that, they will look at conversion across all their games of whether or not that game is hitting the target of wish list or not.
Yep.
And they will look at things like how many visits are coming in on Steam side, but how many are converting over to the wish list.
Yep.
And that tells you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even looking at some of the data that they've shared, I immediately could recognize, even just with the games, I've had the data of like, oh, this game is performing worse on wishlist conversion to visits.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's getting a really high visit. So their ad is doing actually tremendously well.
Yep.
Whether it's the capsule or the ad or the text or the click of like the hook or whatever they're using, that is actually performing really high.
Yep.
Even they had mentioned like, this is way higher than a lot of our games. But then those visits to wish lists are way lower.
Mm-hmm.
So is it bad game, or is it the store, or
it's so I have a lot of, I guess, theory from an academic standpoint. One of the courses that I'm taking in my grad program actually covered a lot of this related to landing pages. We were looking at it specifically from crowdfunding as well, of like how might you use a kind of funnel like this to then go launch a Kickstarter campaign, and then make sure that it gets funded, et cetera, et cetera. And likewise, I think that ads might be something that is an untapped potential for game devs. Like you said, it can be expensive though, because if let's say that you have $100 on Steam, that's already hard to make. That is nothing compared to like the amount of money you would need to run for ads. And I don't know what that number might be, but if it was like $100, $200 per day in ads that you're running on Meta, and you're not optimized for actually converting people in the right way, it can be really tough, especially because for many of our games, we're getting a call to action that is wishlist a game. And so in the program, what they recommended is that you can still validate, and it's worth that money, because if you can prove that your ad spend will get you a customer who is a high quality lead, and you suspect that they will convert, and there's like some formula that you could use, that the money that you spend in, if for every customer that you acquire gets you, 3 or 4 more customers, then that would be worth it. Because by the time that the game comes out, now you're not trying to get people to go through Steam through those algorithms. You know that they're going to see your ad, they're going to go straight there, and they're going to be in a buying mode because they know everything that they're going through, that you have something that people really, really want. And so you're not leaving up the chance of using that data. And so that early validation becomes, how do you create an environment that's as close enough to the purchasing experience as possible before building anything, so that way you know ahead of time, again, before committing to this project, what you do. And this is where email lists, yay, we'll check that one off. What you would do is you would have your meta ads running. The advantage of that is that Instagram and YouTube Shorts for YouTube ads, at that point, you can actually get a clickable link because you are paying for it. You can click and actually go somewhere. You go to your landing page to get someone to sign up. And maybe that's where you do play tests, or you maybe have some sort of offer that you give them to either put money down or fill out a survey to get into a play tester program. And then that's how you can kind of test the idea behind your game, again, before you test anything. But the difference between that and just doing a wish list is that the person had to take additional actions beyond just going and like clicking wish list on Steam. That you want to try to get them in that mindset where they're making, like, testing, would someone buy this game? And the closer that you get to that, where they actually pay money, then it's okay, we can bypass everything. The Steam page doesn't matter. All of this thing that's like not meant for making conversions doesn't matter. We know that the idea in the game is so hooky that they will go directly to pulling out their wallet and purchasing the game. But again, I haven't proven this out in the game dev space, but I do think that there's something there that could be used. And I wouldn't be surprised if larger studios, AAA studios, are actually doing this. And maybe the publisher that you've seen has something
I'm
similar.
sure.
Yeah.
I think the takeaway there is, I think game devs have this advantage if they're willing to not short games. How do I describe it? It's like short games is the advice because it gets you through the end-to-end cycle quickly as possible. The other thing I don't think as many people realize is short games also allow you to make some money if they're doing all right, even if it's through friends and family, and you're like, whoop-de-doo, the game made $300 minus a $100 fee. Okay, but that $200 pays, $100 for your next Steam credit and $100 to now run ads. You're not going to be able to have a large budget.
Yes.
Maybe you're running $10 ads for 10 days, and that's what you can commit, and you're experimenting and learning. And you would rather fail on a game that, is small and doesn't probably have legs, and you can build up this skill set so that when you start having better and better games, that now, hey, I've already run a bunch of ads as an example, I can know to $10 to $50 a day for X amount of days because I've done this enough. And you also don't have to run it the entire time. You've done this enough to know, hey, after 2 days, if I'm not seeing these kind of numbers, I'm just gonna cut it off. That's a bad ad, bad campaign, bad setup, bad whatever, call to action, whatever it is. So this is why I harp with the small games. One is the timeline. That's what everyone I think says, and it's just good to do. I think the second thing is it just gets cash in your pocket sooner to be able to spend money on things that are utility or tools or A/B testing or just, hey, I have $200 now to spend on music, and I think my last game was not as good because of the music. And you can test that then.
Yep.
Now go make the next game with bot music. Does it really improve or does it not really improve? If it's meh results, and there's other variables, like no game is the exact same as the other, but having the capital be able to start chipping away at some of these or improve your skill set, I just think this is broken, Connor. I think this is a strategy.
Yeah, and like everything that we're covering here is essentially, if you read anything from like Alex Hormozy or some of the other entrepreneurs who talk about these things, it's like cash is king, and it allows you to kind of ladder your way up to bigger and bigger operations. Game dev is hard because there's just so many additional things that you have to do. It's much closer to something like producing a movie that is also interactable, because you have music and you have different skill sets and the programming, the art, right? So it is very hard. But even something like, we're talking about ad spend, so you could take that $200, use on ad spend. You mentioned music. Capsule art is another big one. If you have one game that doesn't have that great capsule art, but maybe you met your $1,000 and now you could go hire a capsule artist to redo it, well, maybe that's going to lead to more clicks and all these different things. And so
that's what I want. I want a shirt that literally says, make $1,000 game.
Yeah.
Everyone's thinking about full-time and retiring and just making... I actually think making $1,000 game, even if it's not your first game, second, third game, that's all the strive should be. Because what you're getting to is like the capsules. They're a good capsule artist today for me is $300 to like $700 US. Now, if you want to have the music created, on the low end, you're talking about $1,000 for enough tracks to cover like 10 tracks, three-ish minutes. On the higher end, we're talking about 5,000.
Yeah.
Even higher on like well-known producers and things like this. But, and assets, it depends 3D or 2D. You can do it without, of course, and we can use Creative Commons and things like that. But if you're thinking that these are barriers to your game and you want to be able to remove them from the equation, we're talking about like $1,000 to $2,000 US is like the budget tier of a game.
Right.
And, if you make 1,000, we'll say net because Steam's going to take that. We'll say net. So it's really like 1,400 gross on a game. Then you have the $1,000 to roll forward in the next game.
Yep.
And
it's just an incremental game, really, if you just think about it.
I know. That's why I love this stuff. Like, people ask me why I'm shipping more games and I want to ship more games. And like, why did me and Andy do this? And a piece of me is actually addicted to the game itself, the business game.
It is. It's a meta. Yeah, there is definitely a meta. And I don't, it's so funny because I don't think we're there yet. I don't think indie game development is quite there yet. And I think we're getting there because we're starting to see some of the things pop through of like the discussion of how do you validate, like people talking about the idea of validating games, whatever mechanism you're using, that is just entering the ecosystem. And I don't know if it's because publishers have started to become unreliable. And so people are now forced to take this upon themselves, or there's been people like you or Bite Me and some of these other people who are coming through and like they're showing what you could be doing, that now people are actually looking for these other options as well and seeing that, hey, I could do this as well. And for me, as a small developer, it's really inspiring because all of you are interacting in different spaces. You're reachable, where there's consulting and things like that too. But then if we expand this and we say, now there's an ecosystem of indie developers who maybe they don't have millions of dollars, but maybe they even have like $100,000 that they made from their game. Well, they're going to look for better capsule artists. They're going to look for better music assets. And so if you're not a game developer, you're someone who makes these assets but want to take commissions. Now this starts to open up people where you're like, oh, I can actually take on some of these smaller clients and maybe I can make a living if I'm doing capsule art for game. I mean, look at Megabonk, right? And that capsule art. I forget the other.
Well, we don't need to go that big, but like
Sure.
I can give a real example.
Yeah.
Like, like example that's related to me
Yeah.
is Dexter, who made the music for a game about feeding a black hole.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, that's a paid one-off opportunity, but he didn't have like a really extensive game dev portfolio, and it kind of was like, look, we'll just pay, no rev share. The game has made good money, but this is a game that you will be able to close work just on saying,
right,
your music is in a game that sold 250,000 copies.
Yeah. And that's a social proof. That's what he needs, right, to get started.
Yeah. So I'm really listening to this. I'm thinking maybe there's a spot where I just start writing like $1,000 checks, no question asked, for game dev.
And like, do what? What would you do with it? Where's my $1,000? Can I get in the mail?
Well, just set a barrier of entry so that it's not straight money. But like you're game dev, people have runways. But if the answer to them not publishing on Steam is really just money, it's just like, well, that's an easy thing to solve.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not enough. Anyone's going to be like living cost on it.
Right.
Essentially, but then I'm like, is it wasted money because it's just going to be people who are stuck in the same cycle of building out a long game anyways?
Yeah. So, okay, this is going to be my wild idea. I tell people that I have lots of ideas.
Or not be like Sock Pop.
I have no clue. No.
Oh,
way different.
Not
way
collective.
Different.
Great.
It's not a collective. Yeah. I have thoughts on that too, but we'll focus on this idea. I have a lot of ideas. 1 and maybe 20 are good. So this could be a very bad idea, or maybe I'm onto something here, or in the middle. But I was thinking, so do you know Mrs. Is? Yeah, the developer who did like the four developers, 1 asset pack, right? So think about how they just kind of took the asset pack. They all used the same one, however expensive or cheap it was, and they made a game from that. Now all of a sudden, by the end of that, they have 1, a bunch of videos of these developers making these games. 2, they have 4 games that are prototypes. And then 3, they have a story that individually these 4 games might not mean anything, but because it was made in terms of a competition, now there's like, oh, which one do you like better, right? And so then if those developers said, we're going to make, not only are we going to make this game, let's extend the idea, you're going to make the games, and then we're going to put this on a platform, maybe it's itch, and say whoever makes the most sales through a marketing campaign of our games, do the pitch, do the event, everybody's working together, then you could say the winner of this competition is going to be whoever has the most net sales. And that can either be something that the developers get to pocket. It might be something where everybody gets to, celebrate. It might be an invitational development thing. And maybe that's where the $1,000 goes, is you get to vet who you want to invite to this thing. You get the content, you get everything out, but then you're actually validating the game itself.
This is smart.
And it's a way better game jam. Okay. I don't know what to call it, but it is Game Jam 2.0. And this is what I think would be the future of, it's not for everybody, right? But it's for the people who can make the game, like you're saying. You wouldn't do this as your first rodeo. You would do this with teams of people or developers.
But how many people sign up for 30-day game jams?
Yeah.
A bunch. Like those are actually the ones I prefer.
Yeah.
And I think if you're well experienced, that a 30-day or even 60-day game jam is enough time to have a game.
Yes.
Assuming you're able to commit to it. But, there's people I see in game jams, and it's a part-time job for those 30 days. Yes. And that's literally how they're operating for the YOLO's sake of just, it was fun.
Yeah.
Versus here, it's just like, okay, well, how many people do you invite into that? You provide the resources, you get them ready. Yep. And then whatever, I don't know how you vet it, but it's like playtest numbers or just a panel looks, everyone releases their playtest, and whatever game just does the well that the panel decides gets the prize, and that's it.
Yeah. And the stories, like for me, it's the stories. Like, let's say the developers then are live streaming when they're working on the game or whatever. It's like there's ways to make it so that it's not extractive. And I think there has been some criticism of these style of arrangements before. And the way this would have to be balanced is that someone might host a final video or figure something out, like, but the developers would have to get all the proceeds for their work and get compensated. And it's kind of like, it's up to you, however you want to do it. Or maybe at the very end, it's just an event that goes on and these developers get to participate, but it's kind of like bundling, right? if everybody's working together, you're all kind of pointing the same direction and creating something that's bigger than the individual pieces separate. There's a reason then for people to pay attention. And so then when that if each developer gets to say, hey, I've shipped this game, this is the final version, you can put that like award or whatever and say, this was participating in the number 4 entry of Cory's Game Jam, or not a Game Jam thing.
What I think is a good spot there is if you have an incentive to do something like this, whether it's like a publisher like me that just puts out a prize, and then the agreement is you pull everyone up in the same sense, which is, okay, assume you can ship your games. The ideal scenario would actually be that all proceeds are just divvied out equally among the people in it. Mm-hmm. So if there's a game that does pop off, mm-hmm. everyone is actually benefiting from it.
Yeah, yeah.
And not just a winners take all scenario. Yeah. So that's actually not that bad.
And we have the mechanisms for this, because what is the mechanism on Steam to be able to have everybody in a bundle where they all get together? I already said the answer. It's a bundle.
I wouldn't do the bundle though.
Really? Okay.
I would actually have, in this case, the easiest thing is, a publisher like me step in.
Sure. You handle all the agreements.
We own it.
Yeah.
Right? Like the app ID we own, the payment comes to us, and then we divide by whatever, 10 people that enter and participate, the collective of the 10 games.
So, okay. That's interesting. So then what you're saying is it would be one app, all of it, like all the games go in, almost like a UFO 50, or I know that there's like the basement
individual
right?
apps.
Okay.
So 10 apps, 10 store pages, all the money funnels to one entity.
As a publisher.
Whatever that makes, divide by 10 to the 10 people.
True, because you already have to do that on Steam anyway. Like there's no way to distribute that.
As a publisher, there's no way to do the manual custom split.
And that makes sense too, because you could pay $100 as a publisher to get the app IDs for them, and you give them out to those people and then say, here's your depots, here's your things, we're going to help you with the production side, you just focus on getting the game and you're on top of it. So you kind of take over as the publisher.
Yeah. And any game, if there's a game, if I go by the rule 1 in 10, and these are all quote unquote qualified people and vet it, one of these games is actually going to pay for all the others. Mm-hmm. And that means that if one of them does well, it lifts all the other 9. It doesn't mean that the other 9 couldn't produce a solid game. It's like they didn't know marketing, the art style, like the wrong genre, like mechanically it wasn't good enough. It didn't hit. They just didn't go viral. Yeah. Whatever the factor may be. But if you vet and you do this and you have 10 of equal scoring quality, because like one person of the 1 out of 10 might be really good in marketing, but not super strong game dev. Someone else might be really shitty in marketing and really great game dev. But if everyone is roughly around the same skill set, and you're just basically like, well, we're de-risking. If one of us does well, we all benefit. Yeah. And it's not the bundle route where it's like, well, only if you buy through the bundle. It's actually total sales.
That's
like
true.
One game does really high in sales, divide that by 10, pay out. That's it.
Yeah.
It's how to do weirdly enough, this is how to do the sock pop, but not on one game, one game or one entity within itself of friends. Because that was always my issue with this is how do you get, Connor, honestly, like even 4 people to be dedicated enough and like not dilute the responsibilities among each other, not have crazy overlap, to actually ship these consistently once a month. Yes. And the answer I've always given people is it's near impossible unless you're high school friends. Yeah. It's the only way I've ever seen something like this work is like you have just been friends for plus 10 years and you just have this uncanny amount of trust among each other. Yeah. But here it's actually, you don't need to trust each other. Yeah. Because if you don't finish, you don't get anything.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and there would have to be some sort of like, okay, so for example, I'm thinking in my head, like we'll take Sock Pop Collective, where Stacklands, right? They had DLC and things that they kind of continued to invest in that game because they saw that it had reception. There was ways for them to just delight those players even more. We'll call it kind of extend and retap and like remarket to those people. But that could be another way where it's like, oh, maybe beyond that, there's some agreement where if you do decide to support the game, you do DLC, that can just be your own. Hey, you have your own player base. That's up to each developer to decide. Like the base games might be in the 1 in 10. And then the other one is even with something like Stacklands, I think after they saw the success of that, and this is anecdotal, I think I just kind of like observation, I feel like I had heard that they decided to have games that were a little bit longer runway. That when they were shipping the monthly games, it kind of limited the scope of what they were able to make.
Yeah,
Just
of
because
course.
within a month you can't do anything. But in something like this now, if you're saying we all have 3 months or 4 months to hit this Steam Next Fest, to hit all these beats, here's what the production timeline is going to be. You as a publisher are kind of really looking at it more from that like project management, and you kind of have this mechanism going through. It's like what you're doing with your 3 games, except kind of removing you from doing the actual work and instead looking at it from 10 different studios, which
Well,
much harder to do than we're talking through. But
it works out well because let's say the games do everyone just breaks even roughly.
Yeah.
And okay, 1 out of 10 didn't roll. Sorry, just bad stats.
Yeah.
You have the same process to just pull in the existings. So who wants to go on to round 2? We'll bring in more new people. Like the second, like in investment, there's funds. Fund 1 you raise, and then fund 2 comes in after when you see the results. But most of the people in fund 1 want to go back into fund 2 because of the results.
Yeah.
And you could just carry forward and just fill in new participants. Oh, you made enough and then you don't want to do game dev, or game dev's not for you? Cool, you bow out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got 6 out of 10 slots full. 4 new people come in.
Yeah. And so then what you're really looking at is, because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, it would need to be very, very clear, like how the publisher is also taking money off the top, how you distribute the funds.
Of course.
But it's all, that's all people management.
For those who don't know, in the startup world, there's this thing called Y Combinator.
Oh, yeah.
It's a accelerator or incubator, depending on which way you want to say it and what you believe as Y Combinator entity. But you come in and you take X%, and you are just the support mechanism and the administration. And I mean, to them, it's also a reputational brand of having done this so much that, it actually brings in people already.
Yeah.
But the same thing is like, there's a reputational out to this too, which is selfishly as a publisher myself, it's like, well, anybody who shipped a game that maybe didn't financially was successful, I can see that they're capable, that, hey, this just wasn't a hit. Well, why don't we just publish your next game and just find a way to make you have the next game, either runway or rev share or combination of splitting things. This idea didn't come from Emerson Thorney Co. This is the future. But when you said this, I realized actually this is not that bad because it's a centralization model too.
Yeah.
What's the greatest thing? 10 games happening at the same time. Not great for the unmovable dates and things like that, but I'm not saying they'd all release exactly the same day. I'm saying, well, that means that we need 10 sound effects, 10 trailers, 10 music. Ah, great. So who's the person who's doing baller trailers for us? I got 10 things for you.
Yes. Yeah, that's huge.
It's huge. Or some combination, like if there's 3 people, I got, 3, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Capsules too. I go to the same 3, 5 people. I'm like, I have 10. It pulls down the pricing too, because now it's a batch thing.
Right.
So one capsule is actually, I'm looking to do 3 capsules.
Yeah.
Instead of like 600 a capsule, it's like, well, I'm actually be 500 a capsule. So it's $300 US just there.
Yeah.
Just off of that alone, I bet you, as a publisher, the Steam fees would cost me 0, just off of leveraging bulking with the capsule artist.
Yeah.
If it was the publisher who finds somebody for the music, and they have their licensing in such a way that they outright own it, then indirectly I own that music for life.
Yep.
The next round, I can use those.
Yep.
With no cost.
Yep.
So it's actually kind of a broken model, I think.
Well, we'll see. It has to be proven out.
Once the game's released, this is the model I'm doing.
Yeah, that's it. Oh no, what have I done?
Like, unless Andy is opposed to this, because there is administration overhead.
It's a ton. You're taking on so much risk as a publisher, but I think that's the agreement, and
but
very
it
probably
switches.
That's true.
Because for us, for Amos and Thorny.co, we already take on the amount of work because we co-develop.
Yes.
In this, you're not co-developing. You're going back to traditional publisher supporting role.
Yeah.
And I think it would end up being the same amount as co-developing with 2 people versus 10 games of supporting.
Well, and that's true because like, so let's say you have all your artists, like whatever team comes in, it really is like an incubator. If you have a solo dev coming in and they could just focus on their game and they pass the checks, you know they're vetted. We'll say Sockhouse, right? Sockhouse comes in, maybe he can do a lot of it, but would like support on the marketing and the capsule art and all those different things. It's like that is perfect because he could just be on his own making that style of game. Then you have it maybe like me and Pi, we come in where Pi wants to do the art and I want to do the programming. We can come in and again, like maybe I like don't need help with certain stuff, but we need music, and so you toss that one in. And so you're like, you really are sharing these resources, but instead of me having to make a deal with Sockhouse and like say, hey, do you want to like use the same capsule artist? Like you are kind of that person to help smooth things over and take over a lot of that overhead, especially if you are also engaging with, you have your own publisher festival and all these things. Like there's so many advantages then that like, yeah.
The biggest change of this from the traditional publishers is that you de-risk the risks. Because of the payout. Yeah. The payout model.
Yeah.
Is with a publisher, you're one-on-one. You have a shitty game, you just have a shitty game, and that's it.
Yeah.
Here, it's like, okay, if all 10 are garbage, all 10 are garbage. It's no different than you being solo and having your garbage game.
Yes. Yep.
And financially garbage, not the game itself garbage. Just whatever is wrong didn't cause financial.
We love
success.
your games. Send us your games. Yes. We'll roast them live.
So, but you share in the upside of one person who might just have a game that just hit the right way at the right time. Now, obviously, they have somewhat of a downside if they solo did it, but you don't know when you start. That's the beauty of this model, is you don't know. If you already know you have a great game, why are you participating in this?
Yeah.
Like if you already have the validation and you're sitting there with 50,000 wish lists, you're not joining.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think there's different ways, because I could see one model where you do the whole everybody participates and the publisher kind of says, here's all the games that are going out and you can kind of decide if you want to like work together on this thing and you share it. I could also see it, even if this system existed where someone just comes in randomly as a one-off, that having that would still be beneficial, because there's also things like where we're doing our accountability group. Well, that's your accountability group now, is all the people within this. And you just say, hey, as part of being this publisher, we want to make sure that you join this, talk to other developers. Now you have a network of other developers that you could talk to, bounce ideas off of. And so the publisher doesn't become the person who's saying like how to do it. You're talking to other developers actually working on games. And these are all the structures that I think people are longing for, that I hear existing in indie dev, but just doesn't exist. And it seems like it's too hard because the publishers are expected to front the money. So it's like, there are some things that you're supporting, right? You have the support network there, but it's all related to bringing down the cost and the risk of things that you will need on the way to development. But you're not saying, I'm going to cut you $100,000 check. It's like, you as developer still need to be on the hook for that. But when it comes down to the payout at the other side, we can help you with some of these other things. It's a flat cost, and maybe that's the part that gets recouped. So it's interesting. I think definitely would need more time to consider and think on it.
Nope.
You're just going to run it? Dang.
It makes the most sense on all facets.
Yeah.
It's everything I don't like about the publisher model, of where I kind of feel like they're overly lazy for what they got. But here you have an upside of, okay, forget the support. You have the upside of just 1 in 10 of these games. If one carries really well, it's going to divvy out to you. And it just kind of de-risks that maybe your game just doesn't resonate, just doesn't hit the audience. Like, that's the biggest risk. I know somebody right now who's released the game, 44,000. Literally, it was yesterday. 44,000 wish lists. And they're sitting there worried that, but what if it just doesn't convert well?
Yeah.
Like, a good thing for them, it is converting pretty well. It's like, I think they did 20,000 in their first 24 hours.
Yeah.
So they're in a good spot. But, everyone's always in the back of their mind. It's like, you don't know until the numbers are there.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. Wait, let me, I had an idea pop in my mind. What do you think about this? So you have a developer and they have an idea, they have the prototype. They get to the point where they have the prototype, you play it and you say, okay, great. the next part, in order to see if you can do this, would be we will pay for X amount of money to run ads, to get your game on Steam, to do all these things, and we'll run the validation pipeline for you as a test. If you can clear this bar, we'll help you with production going from that kind of, not, I don't know if it's like pre-product, but from prototype to production if we see the numbers, but you're helping them with kind of the lower
that makes
costs.
sense. That makes sense
that's the bar to entry, right?
It de-risks on the publisher side of spending resources on something that's not going to work in terms of game, not the person.
Right.
It gets the group all kind of on an equal playing field of like, all these games have some potential.
Yeah.
We've already vetted it.
Yep.
In terms of financial risk to a publisher, if they are doing this or whatever entity is doing this, it's not that crazy. We're talking about, you're taking a 6,000 plus Steam fees. So you're taking a $7,000 US dollar risk for the Steam fees, and everyone getting like $500 US dollars for 10 people.
Yeah.
Which in the grand scheme of like publishing a game, and you would structure it in such a way that it's recoupable.
Yeah.
Or some rev share recoup, like 50% recoupable, yada yada. Once recouped, it's switched over to whatever. The game makes zero or it gets canceled. Like we ran the ads, you didn't get accepted. There's no rev share.
Yeah.
We just absorb.
Yeah.
But it's way better to absorb that cost there than it is to have somebody in a program with you with 9 other people and, 2 months in, you find out they're just not going to ship a game. They're just not disciplined. They're not motivated. They don't care anymore.
Yeah.
The game they're shipping is actually not even feasible.
Yeah.
Like, because it doesn't resonate with anything on Steam.
Yeah. Well, and you could release then that person. It's like if it didn't pass, you go, hey, keep coming back to us. We like what you're doing. We're here. And if you do want yourself to go run this game, you are more than welcome to. Like there's no ownership or anything like that. It's just like they can go and do what they want with it, but they at least got the support to help with that validation piece. And the upside is if you had a game that you're like, this is the magic, then you're like, hey, we'd love to essentially bring you on and let's get this through. And then there's upside for you to be able to continue supporting this.
If you're listening, would you apply to something like this? Because I think on my side as a publisher, this is actually win-win across the board. I actually, not just for myself, but on both sides, I don't see any downside. So I put on my game dev hat, I don't see a downside. I put on the publisher hat, I don't see a downside. The only downside I can see is just like, or not the downside, is people just don't want it. They want to solo it. They don't want to be a part of it. It's not their jam. Yeah. They think it's better to just do it on their own and then go find a publisher in one-on-one. Like, I'm curious, in the comments, tell me if you would do something like this or not. I'm dead serious when I say I'm thinking of doing this. Like,
you're now you can't wait to get through your releases. You're like,
I already couldn't wait to get to the releases, but now if the releases are all right and there's capital to deploy, because this is in the back of my head running a business. I'm sitting there going, okay, if the games are good, there's going to be capital to deploy. Any capital I don't deploy is just going to be taxed 30%. Roughly 30% to the IRS as net income after deductions, like whatever the net income is. I would rather, as a business, put that money to work to make more money and not just simply give the IRS 30% of every dollar.
Yeah, right.
So I've been trying to think of like, well, how do you deploy the money efficiently and not just scale up more time in the games myself, just do more games, just bigger budgets on the games themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't want to bring on like higher paid talent just because we can.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend money to just try and bring up the bar of the games we have simply just to bring up the bar because, well, we think it might help. Because I don't think that spending, as example, like $5,000 in music on a game about feeding a black hole would have been the difference of that game making $2 million or $1 million.
Yeah.
Like spending a $1,500 person making the music and a $5,000, even though we would spend 3 times the amount for music, would not even 2x.
Yeah.
And I don't have the data. Obviously, we can't.
Yeah.
But if I looked at games that have succeeded, I have not found the games where you're like, oh, okay, well, clearly because you spent 3x on your music production budget, your sales went up by 2x.
Yeah.
So that's not efficient use of capital expenditure for me to spend that way. So I've been trying to think, well, what does the business do with the money then?
Yeah. Well,
like, yeah, we could draw it, but
yeah.
I meant like that's not the most efficient thing for the business, is just to pay out Andy and I a dividend.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. We'll both pay personal tax.
Yep.
Plus 30%.
Mm-hmm. Which is good, because then you get to do your living. But if you don't need it, it's like, yeah, what do I do with it? You'd rather invest it, because then you can get even more money, or help other people. Really, that's a big one to me, is the capital and the way it gets spent. The more that we could test out what works would be immensely helpful. And so I'll raise my hand and be like, the things that I would need to see. This would be the list of things that I need to see in order to trust this. It would first be, what is the cost to me as a developer? What am I giving up versus what am I gaining? How does that work? And I think it would be helpful to be transparent about, this is how it's different. Here's what's expected of you. But I think if you look at it and said it's inspired by like Y Combinator and the incubators in Silicon Valley, now in this indie game space, that makes total sense to me. And so at least for me, where I have more of that context, I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand what that is. And I know that there's going to be some bars that I have to clear. The second would be, what do I then get access to that I don't have to do? So for example, if I know that maybe you have a developer who specializes in networking, like multiplayer network netcode, and that's something that I don't have to go seek out, but I know I could get help with, cool. Capsule art, music, a lot of these assets that maybe I could get something higher quality that's not just asset packs. And if I know that it's not made with AI, where it's like, I have high quality trust, that would be awesome. And then the other one would be playtesters. If you have a group of playtesters that you have who play through, that you trust, who can look at these things, and I know that I can get that feedback, there's all these things that start to stack up. But I'd want to see, one, how does that work? And then two, what is my payout at the end? Like, again, what am I giving up? I already have to give 30% for Steam. If I'm in Godot, I don't have any public engine fees, but maybe I'm on Unreal, that's going to be something else. But if you handle that for me, oh, cool, I might make an Unreal game now, because now you might be handling that as a publisher who owns this application, stuff like that. And then at scale, it's not me reporting that every single month. I can just focus on getting back to making games. I can do it the way that I want, with the people that I want, as long as it's kind of expected to move forward. And the last one would really be the creative control. How much do I get to own the process and like make what I want within reason? So for example, I would say it would not be within reason for me to say, oh, well, I just want to be able to make whatever game that I have in my mind without any limitation, because the market might not want that. But I think it would be fine if I got to push back and say, the vision for this game is that it's going to be a narrative RPG, and I don't want to do loot boxes. I don't want to do, not saying you would do that, but like, or incremental, right? Yeah. Like there's some reason where I'd want to know that I could still have control over understanding that vision. And early on, again, maybe that's where the validation piece comes in. If I can prove that my game is validated by the market by showing what it is, and now it's just a matter of going from prototype to production, that would give me much more confidence. And again, for you as a publisher, hopefully say that, okay, hey, you proved us wrong. We can help you with this part of it because you have proven and done the legwork to get there. And then the last part would be me knowing that I'm not getting a paycheck from you. I get paid at the very end when everything is done, and it's still on me. If I have to work full time and then do part time to get this over the finish line, then that's it. And I guess the last part would also be like, how am I joining this cohort? Within my cohort, do I have to have that unmovable date, or do I have some wiggle room that I don't get paid until my game is in that pool of people, or how does that payment work? So if you can explain all that to me and show me the benefits, I would be like, I would be applying. I would actively trying to seek out getting into some kind of program like this, because there are a lot of overhead. Like, I'm learning these skills. I know how it works. But I would do that. On the flip side, I would also love to participate. I would love to be in the incubator, maybe not making games, but if I could be an advisor and stuff, I'd be like, hey, that sounds like a lot of fun. Like, I would do that. I gave this whole speech of not saying things until you're ready, but this is all hypothetical, okay? I'm not committing to safe harbor. It's a safe harbor. Yes. Things could change. No promises. Don't record this. Don't put this on recording and hold us to it.
I think it's actually feasible at this like 15% to the publisher, assuming you get accepted, assuming you go through this.
Yeah.
And because it's just a supportive role.
Right.
And there is ad spend. Sure, yes, there's ad spend. But again, like I said, the capital injection for the ad spend is basically just vetting out a potential person, and it's more mitigation of wasting time and resources than whatever. It's actually really cheap bet to figure out if it would work or not. You don't get paid if the game doesn't ship. And I think having some sort of like large flexibility of like 3 months between the cohort of releasing, but knowing that like, that your game doesn't ship, you get Zippo.
Yeah. But also maybe that you get to hold on to your IP. Like if you don't ship with the publisher, then you
the
get
other thing
released, and
is,
it's like, hey, there you go, finish the game.
As the publisher right now, like Amherst Authority, we've not had any of the intellectual property. It's always stayed with the devs.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's actually true for the musicians. Like if you hire a musician and you're like, hey, you have a license to this game, but the musician can sell the original soundtrack on their own. Like it's really getting the money back to the artists and the developers as much as you possibly can. But like, again, consolidating the other parts of it where you get to have your payout for the publisher for taking on the administrative side of things.
Yeah, and I mean, people are going to be like, the publisher, 15%, you're just trying to be a middle person. But there's actual expenditure in this. Like I said, you are going to spend marketing dollars on vetting out whether or not this cohort of people got games that meet a certain bar.
Yeah.
It's much less than other publishing deals because you're not as extensively involved in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
So that's why I was going to go back to the creative lead, and the creative design should be whatever, as long as there's not like you always have like a morality clause.
Yes. Like
you can't go release a game that's going to defame somebody, because then the publisher would be liable if they publish the game. So something like that, I mean, I think it could work.
Yeah. And someone, I guess you probably would still, if you're a developer, would you still have to do an LLC? This is where we're not experts, but like some of the minutia of like, could you do sole proprietorship because now you are the publisher kind of representing that person, and like you're the entity who owns the product and the developer is just the developer. Like it is kind of interesting because there might be other administrative hoops that an individual does not have to go through because now they're tied to a publisher. In this case, you are a publisher. So
the only other thing that I, as a publisher, worry about would be like, I would have to take the existing publishing agreement that we have and amend it to specify things like this this cohort language.
Right.
Which, because I talked about like, actually, it's not just a split of your amount of money.
Yeah.
It's a split of the collective and then just dividing out by whoever gets through. And there's some verbiage that you need around like people abusing. Like if the longer you leave the window to release, the more likely someone is to be like, well, I'm just going to ship my game because actually this game popped off and I want my 1/10 of that.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's it. Maybe you just have a pool of money where you say, we're actually going to take off more. Like there's a flat fee that you get. Everybody gets this, but then you get this percentage of like the total sales that's based on performance. So if your game is the one game that pops off, I think people would be understanding that like you would get a smaller percentage of.
It becomes too hard on like the accounting side because now it's like you have a rate per game and then divvy that out 10 ways to whoever, plus the publisher is taking like it's doable.
Just like a bonus, right? It's the that's the thing I'm thinking. Like what could be the bonus? It's up to you. You have to decide this, but that would be nice.
The same thing we go with our rev share agreements with the devs is we try to keep it stupidly simple.
That's true.
Like our lawyers were always like, oh, what about this edge case and liability? And we're like, 1-page term sheet.
Yeah.
And
that's good.
We'll just absorb whatever the downside is. Like, tell me what the downside is. Oh, they could do blah, 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 like this scenario. And I'm like, okay, I know the downside. I know that's a risk. I'm willing to accept it. And then we don't need this like 20-page crazy rev share agreement.
Yeah.
That's why I keep the payout easy. 1/10, divvy it out. 10 games come in. 1/10 of total amount comes out. Sorry, 10 games, 10 people. It gets a little complicated if you have more than one person on a team. How do you do that? But I think you just.
But that would be up to that group. Yeah, that would be up to that group. Like there would have to be some person who then gets to be the account manager, the team lead for that project.
Yeah, I just see it as entities. There's 10 entities. There's 10 games.
Yep.
If you're 2, so sorry. Like that's just how it's going to split out because what else do you do in those scenarios?
Yeah, and which is probably why Steam does it this way as well because they don't want to deal with those sub entities. They're just like, keep it simple. It's one entity that is owning this game. They get the payment, and it's up to
also compliance because that's why I was saying the administration. Because now everything you have, it's like now you have to know KYC, know your customer. On their side, they only need to know that one entity. But if they add splits, now they need to know any of those entities of the splits because of things like money laundering, and that's why you have KYCs and compliance, making sure you're not on a list and things like this.
I got you.
The same thing that I would take on that burden as well And that's why I'm like, oh, this is a high administration thing of doing to the complexity of what everyone wants. Like, it'd be
Yeah.
nice for bonus payouts and higher tiers and multi tiers if your game pops
Yeah.
off. But
Not
all it does
practical.
is add super complexity on like accounting side, on a legal side, on the contract definitions of like, what is the extra bonus? How long is it? Does everyone get it? What defines a game popping off? Is it just by weighted amount of revenue? Like, yeah, there's a lot of things where it's just like, no, just the easy thing. You join in, 1/10, that's it.
Here you go. Or whatever it is. What about DLC? Do you know, again, I don't want to like solution too much, but like, is there a way to be able to say like a DLC purchase for your game goes directly to you or something like that?
Again, I would just have it.
Whole...
Yeah, they own the intellectual property, so if they want to make a V2 outside the cohort and the game is done well, great. They can go reap the rewards on that.
That makes sense.
But typically, our rev share agreements include everything tied to that game itself.
Yeah.
So DLC,
yeah.
Cosmetic pack, and like the trade inventory related stuff, off Steam sales. Again, because you're de-risking.
Yeah.
Like, boo-hoo-hoo, your game popped off and now you're complaining about the split. But up until that happened, you were sitting there privy to the fact that if my game doesn't pop off, there's 9 other games that might, and I still would get my 1/10 cut.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather much have 30% of $100,000 than 70% of $100. 70% of $100 is nothing.
This is what it's doing is you're lowering your upside.
Yeah.
But you're pulling up some of your floor, your downside, hopefully.
Yeah.
By everyone's in the same boat, and we all get the advantage of the tide rising. And if the tide goes down, we all suffer.
Yeah.
And like I said, there is an edge case of like how we've always structured it is you do own the intellectual property. So if you do go make a game too, that's inherently yours.
Yeah.
And this cohort in this example would not be privy to that. And I think that's worth it because there's now a burden of cost and effort addition.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Versus a DLC there is a burden of doing it, but it's a lot lower than go make a whole expansion pack.
Yeah.
Like the DLC could be a cosmetic pack.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then if you have like an artist team who could go in and make it for that game, maybe the developer doesn't even have to do anything. It's just, hey, we as a publisher want to put something on this for your game. We are going to go do that, and we're going to use our resources to do it. And you get paid out, and everybody else gets paid out, and we, so maybe it does work out in the end. But it's like it is a definitely different mental model to get used to. And again, for me as someone who would be interested in this and be wanting to participate, I know what I'm getting into at least, and once that's all clear, and if I can clear that bar, which is I would imagine still going to be tough to get a validated game, that there's a bunch of upsides of exactly the same reason why they do this for Y Combinator and these incubators, where it's like you are so much more successful when you can be in this hotbed of talent of going through having the support network that you need to learn these skills that otherwise you'd be doing on your own anyway. Now you're just paying a little bit of the final payout to get access to these resources. And again, like even for me as a part-time dev, that's huge because now I don't have to spend I can actually split my time. I can just focus on making the game, focus on getting better at game development, knowing what I'm working toward, and maybe even getting access to knowledge of people who I wouldn't normally get to talk with because there's a context to it as well.
So we started with releasing a game, and we ended with defining the entirely new publisher model that will take over the gaming industry 2027.
Oh man, how did we get here?
I don't know, but that's a great place to end.
Yeah, it's a great place to end. But now I won't know how Just Keep On Fishing is going to go. Maybe next week. Maybe next week we'll go to the next game and invent something else. Well, Cory, thanks so much for your time. If anybody wants to follow you, YouTube is still the best place. Nothing's changed.
Yep.
There's no email list.
Nope, just the YouTube.
All right. Well, if you want to follow me, SundayBrunchStudios.com. I just went over a cool post about the way I'm thinking about de-risking game design. So if you're interested in checking that out, just posted it today or yesterday. And other than that, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you again next time. And we don't have any topics for today, do we?
We can just make it up as we go.
We'll just wing it.
I
Okay.
believe.